All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to summer. Almost summer. I guess it's technically 5 days from now, but welcome to summer, a few days early in Stone Harbor. I'm sure probably many of you know me, recognize my smiling face, but if you don't, I'm Rich Fuchs. I'm the president of SHPOA, and again, thank you for your time. One thing I'll observe is probably if any of you have been here before, I can tell you probably didn't pay that much attention to me because you would have realized that my trick is to take $5 bills underneath the chairs in the front row to get people to sit up front. And there's nobody there, so I'll claim all my $5 bills at the end of the session. So, thank you. We've got a pretty packed agenda, so we're going to move right along. And I'd like to start, as I always do, by introducing to you the trustees and officers of SHPOA. They're all, I gathered them all in one area. That way I can look to see who's here and not forget anybody. But so the officers that served this year for SHPOA, myself, of course, Chris Yates is our vice president, Heidi Yacker is our secretary, and you're going to notice I did this in reverse alphabetical order because I'm sure Chris and Heidi are always tired of being the last ones at roll call or the people that got stuck in the last row in the last seats in the classroom. So I said I'm going to give them a break and put them up front. Our solicitor is Tony Tenari. Our Chief Information Officer and Head of Communications is Homi Kapadia, and our Treasurer is Paul Grady. And those folks put in an awful lot of time this year on your behalf. And I'm fortunate that I have had not only a great group of trustees, but a really, really strong group of officers to help guide the organization this year. So to all of them, again, thank you. That was for all you guys, by the way, not for me. So the trustees, I'll introduce them. Some of them are still out gathering, so I won't ask everybody to stand and be acknowledged. But we have Susan Barrett, Jay Blackman, Cynthia Burton, Chris Campbell, Chuck Deloney, Beth Ann Greiser, I get that wrong every time, Justine Herzog, Scott Jardin, Dwight Jensen, Ted Kessner, Beth Toolin, Mike Walker, Kerry Wendell, and Jeff Lurie. And again, I will tell you, this group has put in probably as much time. I've been on the board now for 9 years. And this group this past year probably put more time and effort into the things that are going on with our organization as any group. So again, thank you, trustees, on behalf of the membership for all of your hard work and all of your efforts. And again, if you have read our stuff, you will have seen that we had some unexpected resignations from the board. Trustees had to step aside for personal or professional reasons, so it left us a little bit short. And so we put an ascot for trustee nominations, people to nominate or self-nominate for joining the board in the middle of the year. And we had 3 individuals, thank God, that put their hand up and said, yep, I want to volunteer. So I'd like to introduce them to you. They have been reviewed by our nominating committee. The nominating committee recommended them wholeheartedly for approval for being a trustee. The trustees voted and they were elected unanimously to the Board of Trustees. And I'm not going to read all of their resume because if I did, we'd be here until probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. But they were impressive candidates. I'm really, really pleased to have seen them join. The first person is Janice Oxschlager. Did I get that right? I'm sorry? Esker, oh God. Sorry, but Janice, stand up please. Janice has been a long-time resident here at Stone Harbor, and she loves the place, like we all do. And that was really what came across very loudly in her application, her submission, was how much Stone Harbor means to her and to her family. I think it's right to say how long you have is, your family is over 100 years old? 98 years old. So you can tell there's somebody that's got themselves really, truly invested in Stone Harbor. The second candidate, and somebody I've known for a long time, so I was really thrilled that he put his hand up, and I think I may have twisted his arm a little bit to get him to nominate, it's Dave Sharp. Dave is a former colleague of mine. We've known each other since we were young staff people at the firm Cooper's Library, now PwC. I worked with Dave there. I worked with Dave when he was abroad and I was abroad, and I said I've known him a long time, and he's going to bring a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm to the role. And the final, and I believe Joe's here, Joe Taylor.
Yep, I'm here.
There he is. Oh, Joe escaped from the trustee pool. He didn't come to the trustee pen. Yeah. So Joe also put his name forward. Impressive resume. Is a very successful business person. Runs a very, very successful real estate company. And I think most importantly, again, what came through Joe's form was how much he loves Stone Harbor, how much his family loves Stone Harbor. So we were thrilled to have the three of them. And, you know, again, Joe, Dave, Janice, thank you on behalf of the members and behalf of the trustees for nominating yourselves, being nominated, and agreeing to serve. So thank you. Very quickly, I saw some council members here on the way-in, members of the governing body. I just want to acknowledge them. Over here, I have Councilwoman Gensimer. We have the Borough Administrator, Manny Parada. Of course, without saying, we have Tim Carney. Councilman Carney is our SHPOA liaison. He took over in January of this year. So any of your questions that have come into the SHPOA contact box, they either go to Tim and or Manny, and I will tell you the responsiveness of both has been outstanding. So I thank both of you for the membership, for your efforts on behalf of the borough. I don't think I saw anybody else. Oh, I'm sorry, Bunny, I didn't see you come in. You escaped my view. Bunny Parzich, Councilwoman Parzich is here as well. Thank you, Bunny, for coming. I hope you didn't get in too late, because I hope you got some sweets. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Excellent. And is there anybody else? Oh, Robin? There's okay. Again, sorry, I apologize, Robin. You missed me coming in. I usually try to make sure I say hello to everybody. Councilwoman Casper is also with us. All right, so let me go through the agenda very quickly, moving along. We're going to talk a little bit about the race. The Harbor Hustle's coming up next weekend, and there's a couple of very worthwhile organizations that are going to be the beneficiaries. So we're going to give them an opportunity to talk a little bit about themselves, and hopefully that will incentivize you and your families to sign up for the race. We have right now, I believe, over 200 signups. We expect a big surge at the end, so we expect a good race, a lot of fun. Remember, there's a 5K, there's a 1 mile walk, and there's a 1 mile run for those of you like me that 5K, I can't drive 5K, let alone run it. So please encourage people to sign up. And as I say, the organizations who will be the beneficiaries, we'll talk about the organizations briefly. We had the Citizen of the Year. I just have to make a note. I had a very, I'm going to call it a senior moment last year. Sorry for those of you that are seniors. We had the Citizen of the Year announced, but I forgot to invite him to the meeting. I thought one of the other trustees did. He thought I did. And so when he was introduced and wasn't here, we kind of went, oh. So I take that on my shoulders. So Jim Malone, again, was our Citizen of the Year. We'd hoped that Jim could join us today to be able to receive his award, but he was unable to join today. So I still have his award from last year. And I promise him I will get it to him. Because my wife keeps saying, why do you have that? You're not the Citizen of the Year. I said, well, I kind of like it. You know, it looks nice on the shelf. But no, so Jim was our Citizen of the Year, and as I said, we'd hope to be able to provide him his award. The schools. A lot of people don't know much about the Stone Harbor Avalon School. There's people I've talked to that don't even know we had a school. They saw the building, but they didn't know it was in operation. So we've asked representatives from the school to come give a brief presentation, talk about the school, so that you become better informed as to what's going on with it, and also, you know, you're paying school taxes if you do check the tax bill, so you'll have a better understanding of where your tax dollars are going and the benefits they're creating. We're going to do a flood mitigation update. We're going to talk about the work of the Flood Mitigation Committee, and in addition, give a little bit of there's a lot of questions out there about this thing called stormwater utility. So we're going to try to provide a little bit of information about it. Not try to convince a position, we don't have a position on it, it's really in the exploratory stage, but help you understand a little bit what a stormwater utility is and ask you to engage in the process. And then we have 4 door prizes. So that's the incentive to keep you around, and of course the best door prize will be last. So please stay around for it. If you win it, you'll be appreciated. All right. A couple thanks as always. The theater, as always, donates the use of the theater for this meeting. We're very, very grateful to the Harbor Square Theater and ask you to continue to support them. All right, I did get it. See? Nope. There we go. And then once again, Sam Weirman and ID Insurance Agency sponsored the delicious refreshments, the beverages and the sweets you had out there. And I hope you all enjoyed the sweets, because I know Mary Ann's does a great job, and we're really pleased that we can work with them on that. But again, thank you to Sam and ID for sponsoring that. We're going to ask your help. You think you came here to sit and just eat and drink? No. We got a job for y'all. And that is, we need your help with membership. As you can see, we have about 1,200 members. Homes, each membership is driven by a home. So there can be multiple people, of course, in the home and multiple emails that get distributed. But we have 1,200 homes, if you will, in Stone Harbor who are members of SHPOA. There's about 3,000 is based on the last count we had. So we're about 40% of the way there, and we need more. We'd like to have more. We do try to be the voice of the members. We listen to your feedback. We take your feedback, we take your input. We provide it to Councilman Carney, to Borough Administrator Parada, to other members of council, to the mayor, telling them what the people are thinking. In fact, we'll talk about in a moment about the survey we just did. So we want to stay your voice, but the more voices we have, the more powerful we'll be. And I can tell you from my conversations with members of council, with the mayor and others, they listen. So please help us by getting your friends, getting your neighbors to join. If they haven't joined, it's simple. It's not expensive. As I always tell people, you probably spill more at the bar over the course of the summer than the cost of the SHPOA membership. So please help us get members. It just makes us a better organization. And again, trustees, I'm going to put a plug in for that. Even though we did have 3 individuals put their hand up and joined on board this year, we still have room for more. We are looking for additional trustees. We're looking for trustees that have energy, enthusiasm, the love of Stone Harbor that I think we all have, and basically the goal to make it a better place. So if you are interested, you can see at the bottom, there's a website or a link. You can submit a nomination. We are going to start the process, the annual process for trustee nominations, and we do need additional trustees. So please, if you would, and if you're interested, put your hand up. If nothing else, talk to us and see if it is something that you are interested in doing, because we really could use the support of as many people as we can get here in Stone Harbor. Oop, I went the wrong way, my apologies. Okay. People always ask, what did you guys do the last year? So rather than talk about it, we just put a quick slide together for you to tell us kind of what are some of the accomplishments. And this is some of the things we did. One thing I want to point out that's on here from an accomplishment, about halfway down, the annual photo contest. Scott asked me to put a plug in for it. We're about to launch the annual photo contest. If you did see the slide presentation that was rolling through before we started, you will have seen a number of photographs on there. Those were the finalists and winner of the photo contest last year. So we got some tremendous entries. And it's fun. Just go out there and take some really cool pictures and send them in. And who knows, you might win a prize. There are 3 gift cards that are awarded to the winners. But more than anything, it's just fun to see Stone Harbor through the eyes of the various people who submit photographs. So the photo contest is about to run, so please, if you have any interest, send them in. All right, so that's time for door prize number 1. $25 gift card to ShopRite. And do we have the barrel? Okay, we've got the barrel handy. I'm going to ask Jay to pull off a ticket for me. Good, grab him. He's an honest guy. All right, Jay, what do we got? Okay, it's a white ticket. Last numbers 067005. 067005. Oh, all the way in the back. Excellent. You know what? Don't even bother coming down. We'll put it here outside, come grab, I'll put the ticket with it, come grab it after the session. That way it'll save you having to climb all the way down these stairs.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, congratulations. All right, so, let me get my clicker back. Nope. Okay, got it the right way. So I mentioned the Harbor Hustle's coming up. This is Jay Blackman. Jay is the chair of our Community Engagement Committee. His committee is the committee that works on organizing all the events that SHPOA gets involved with during the course of the year. So I want to ask Jay to take a moment and talk about the hustle and then introduce representatives of the beneficiaries of the hustle this year. So Jay?
Good morning. This summer, SHPOA is proud to announce our second annual Harbor Hustle 5K and 1 mile walk, which is being held Sunday, June 23rd. Last year, we raised over $4,100 for the Stone Harbor Museum. This year, we will split the net proceeds between the American Legion Post 331 and the Helen L. Diller Vacation Home for Blind Children. Today, we have Commander Thomas McCullough, Trustee John Reddy from the American Legion, and Monica Coskey from the Helen L. Diller Vacation Home for Blind Children, who would like to give a brief background on their organization and why financial support is so beneficial to their operations. Before they come up to speak, I would also like to announce that SHPOA will be organizing a 2-mile Labor Day relay on the beach. So be on the lookout for more details as time gets closer. American Legion. Monica, you guys want to come up? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Commander Thomas McCullough, American Legion Post 331, Stone Harbor, New Jersey. With me today is Trustee John Reddy, combat veteran from the Vietnam area, and I am proud to be a member. I'm proud to serve with him. We also have Monica Coskey representing Helen Dillon School for the Blind that I live right around the corner from. That's a wonderful program. But I could talk about the 4 pillars that we have to abide by: national security, Americanism, etc. Our mission is to help veterans less fortunate than us. All the veterans that serve this great nation do not live on 7 Mile Island. They're not as lucky as John and I and a lot of others. They're in need, and that's our goal. By being a recipient of your support, our building has been on this island for parts and all of 3 centuries. The Property Homeowner Association should know it. We have a vast amount of history. The life-saving station, which it started out to be in 1895, is a prelude to the formation of the United States Coast Guard, for your own information. We have tours that started today, and they'll be running through the summer, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. There's a lot of history. We're working with the schools to bring the elementary schools over and to learn about the history of our building. But what we give and what we do for veterans is second to none on the state, county, or nation level. We have a $50,000 operating expense before we give 1 dime away to veterans organizations. We give, in the last 5 years, and I'm certainly proud of it, I know John is with his fundraisers, most notably the ad book, but we give between $50,000 and $70,000 away. We have generous people on this island that support our sending 4 Coast Guard families home, E5. That's your lowest rank in the service, E5 or below, home anywhere in the United States or subsidiaries at no cost. Married with children, single, etc. We draw 4 of them every year, and we're quite proud of that. We have given a rehabilitation facility in Winslow Township, Veterans Haven South. We have given them $20,000 last year, and we wrapped our arms around high school, Middle Township high school naval cadets program. We provide over $7,000. We just gave a $1,000 achievement award for the most improved cadets during the course of the school year. We help CVAC, Citizens Veterans Advisory Council, in the county of Cape May for homeless veterans. We give them over $12,000 a year. And Violence Veteran Home, we provide on an annual $15,000 to $20,000 to them. We do fundraisers. We also go after grants. We have received over $170,000 from the Home Depot Foundation in the last 2 years in grant money. We're also working closely with Senator Testa's office for a $55,000 grant, which will be approved at the end of June for replacement of our existing windows. Now, when we replace anything in our building, we just can't replace it. It's a National Historical Building, so we have to adhere to stringent specification and engineering design. But with the help of generous people in both communities on 7 Mile Island and off Island, and if I could mention our neighbor who just moved in, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, and they go past our post, and they started contributing $5,000. I will not mention their names or their foundation, but they started contributing $5,000 3 years ago, and they said after the first year, they said, well, we can provide you with $10,000. But we are proud of what we're doing. We appreciate the support of organizations such as yourself, our towns and our community, Avalon and Stone Harbor mayors and borough council, every organization, Stone Harbor Yacht Club, Sam Weirman, Monica with the 7 Mile Times. She gives us a tremendous discount on our yearly ad book. So I could go on and on for hours. I'm Irish and I'm filled with a lot of blarney. But John, do you have any comments?
Just said
Well, I could go on and on. I'm so proud of that building, which we have a host of veterans and people in the community that are. We just had, and I'm going to return the Home Depot Foundation. We just had over $70,000 paver project put in, and if you have opportunity, just drive by our building and just take in the beauty of it. And we had a host. I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but we had a host of smart World War II veterans in 1946 and World War I. They bought our 3 lots in the building and 2 lots, one on the north and one on the west. They bought it for, and this is a deal in Stone Harbor, $1 back in 1948. So, but thank you very much, and we appreciate it. John, you sure you don't want to say anything?
Oh, good morning. How do I follow that? Well, the Diller home is very appreciative to be a recipient of the Harbor Hustle for this year. And our funding comes basically from volunteerism and community organizations. And we do have a few fundraisers each year, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the most important thing about our camp is we have an 1 week totally paid, so no expense to the family, camp for visually impaired children. And our kids come from the Delaware Valley, and for many of them, it's the first time they put their feet in the sand or get to go in the ocean. And I don't know if you see it as much in Stone Harbor, but I live in Avalon. The kids walking around town, they have such a great time. And they go to the beach, Morey's Pier. They basically have a typical summer vacation like we would all enjoy. The Yacht Club of Stone Harbor takes them one day for boat rides and lunch, and they go to the zoo. And then they get to experience community living. They'll go to a restaurant for dinner, they go have ice cream, they attend many of the events Surfside Park in the summer. And for many of the kids, so the camp is from 7 to 15, and many of the kids that come at 7, they will be with us until they're 15, and they make lifelong friends. So we had one parent tell us that when their child came, of course they get each other's information, and then moving forward they come each week to the camp together. So many lifelong friends. And we also have a sighted siblings week. So a brother or sister will come with their brother or sister and be able to kind of meet other kids as well. So we're really proud of that. And it takes a lot of money, as you would know, to keep our home up to date. Recently, we just put a new pavilion in so that the kids can sit outside for their meals. We just recently got all new picnic tables, and we feel that we're so blessed to have homes in Avalon and Stone Harbor, and we want our camp to reflect what the 7 Mile Beach is all about. So we're constantly renovating. I would encourage anyone, if they'd like to do a tour in the off-season, always happy to take people through. We're very proud of our home. And so we have 3 fundraisers, basically. We have our Barefoot Ball, September 7th. If you haven't made it yet, please come. It's a cocktail party. It's a lot of fun. We have our turkey trot the day after Thanksgiving. You can run off your turkey from the day before. And then we do a solicitation each year, and it's actually slated to come out, I think, next week, where we ask all Avalon and Stone Harbor property owners to donate $100 to the Diller home. And so when you see it, please, if you can, donate. That's basically it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica, John, and Tom for being here. And
Would you like Tom to say something else?
Yeah, come on in. Now, we are honored to support your organization, so thank you for being here. And we have another raffle.
I'll pull
You
you.
pull or call? All right. So this is for another $25 Rite Aid card?
Yep.
All right. Red ticket 5411224. All right.
Go. I'll walk it up to her. Okay. Actually, Jay's decided he's going to get his steps in, so he's going to bring them up to you all. So thank you. Thank you very much. And again, folks, you see how, what always amazes me when I listen to people talk about this is like how much the community, so, we're a small community year-round, we're a big community in the summer, but how much the community gets involved and supports efforts like the Legion, like the museum, like the Helen Diller Home for Blind Children. I like the term visually impaired, actually. I think it's quite nice, but we use the official name, so it's just so people know. But I think it's an impressive, and it says a lot about you, the homeowners, the residents, the members of SHPOA. One point I wanted to make just on the slide, if you noticed, we had a number of sponsors. They were very generous this year. We got out early. We have a number of organizations that are sponsoring the race, and if you are going to run, you get a lovely t-shirt if you've signed up already, and we bought some extras, so get there early and get yourself a t-shirt. But the sponsors are going to be there on the t-shirts. So I'd ask you to patronize them. Go to ACE, go to Jay's, go to the other sponsors, because they are contributing to what makes Stone Harbor Stone Harbor. With that, I'd like to introduce Heidi Yacker. Heidi is our secretary for SHPOA, but in addition, Heidi is going to moderate the next panel, the next session, which is going to discuss the Stone Harbor Avalon schools. Heidi?
Thank you. So, maybe you guys want to come up. I have the tremendous pleasure to introduce to you someone who needs no introduction. Suzanne Walters is president of the Stone Harbor Board of Education. This is her second time in that office, and previously she was on the board for 11 years, and 4 of those years were as president. Between the school board positions, Suzanne was the mayor of Stone Harbor for 20 years, the first woman to hold that position. She's been a full-time resident of Stone Harbor since 1978, where she and her husband raised 3 children, 2 of whom went to the Stone Harbor Elementary School. She's also a member of a number of local organizations. She's president of the Church Council of the Lutheran Church of Our Savior, a board member of the Cape Regional Health Systems and Cape Regional Medical Center Foundation, as well as serving on several statewide boards. And it's easy to see why Stone Harbor Museum named her in their series on pioneer women in Stone Harbor. And interestingly, Suzanne's all-time, absolutely favorite position, aside from grandmother, is as a beach tag inspector. Accompanying, let's see, I missed one. Hold it. Co-presenting with Suzanne is Kathleen Fuchs. She is the chief administrator, the chief school administrator for the, oh God, let me just get this straight. She's the chief school administrator. She joined the Avalon Stone Harbor schools in the fall of 2021. She has an undergraduate degree in English from the University of Pennsylvania and a master's degree from the Richard Stockton College in New Jersey in instructional technology. Prior to coming to Avalon and Stone Harbor schools, Mrs. Fox worked in the Brigantine public school system for 24 years, starting out as a substitute teacher and then working her way through the ranks to be as a teacher, supervisor of curriculum and instruction, and principal. And accompanying them is Dr. Renee Murtagh. She is the Avalon Stone Harbor School Supervisor, supervisor of curriculum and instruction, and is the principal of the Stone Harbor School. Dr. Murtagh has been in this position since July of 2012, where her first year was focused on rebuilding the school after Superstorm Sandy. Dr. Murtagh continues to build relationships with all aspects of Stone Harbor. She works with the mayor, the public works, the recreation and tourism departments to provide the students the opportunity to be a part of the Stone Harbor community. The community garden, which will be included in this year's Garden Club house tour, was formed and has flourished during her time here. So without further ado, let me, you in charge.
Thank you, and thank you very much. And okay. Okay. Thank you all very much, and thank you for having us here today. And it's our pleasure to tell you some things about the Stone Harbor Avalon Elementary School, Avalon Stone Harbor. I always put Stone Harbor first, obviously. It's as Heidi said, I came back to the school board after my stint as mayor. Because I love the school. It's a special place, and you're about to see some of the things that have been going on here at the school. Our children are the best. I don't know. We used to, my family, when we traveled, we would listen to Garrison Keillor, Lake Wobegon, and it was in Lake Wobegon, the women were attractive, the men were strong, but the children were above average. And that's what I always say about ours. Our children are above average. They do so many things. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Kathy Fox, who we have some great slides for you, and then I'll step in a little bit later. And my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me here today, welcoming us here today as your school district. I came, as mentioned earlier, to Avalon and Stone Harbor in fall of 2021. I was raised in Brigantine my whole life. I attended the small island schools in Brigantine. I chose, when I got married, to move to Margate, another small island town, and send my children to small island schools for a very, very good reason. And hopefully you'll get to see a little bit about that today. There's something different about growing up on an island, being able to go out, ride your bike, run around in your bare feet, and it's just a different vibe. And you really get to build good relationships with the adults in your community. And that's really what changes kids' lives. So I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about our school district if you're not familiar. A lot of people have already asked me today, how do we have a school? How do we have kids? You know, are there enough people? How can we run this operation? So one of the things that this school district did long ago, and I say I didn't build this ship, although I am flying it now, in 2010, Avalon and Stone Harbor very forward-thinking, kind of consolidated. They consolidated, but they didn't. And what they did was they took their two schools and tried to make one place for these kids to go to school. And because they were able to create a bigger place, they were able to provide the students with a lot more, keep costs down, and really create a good atmosphere for the kids. So what you can see here, and this is our enrollment report, we do this monthly for our Board of Education. It's always on public information if you ever need it. Our students are a combination of children who do live in Avalon year-round. There is a group of students who also live in Stone Harbor year-round. Our staff members can bring their children to school depending on how long they've worked there. Some of them pay tuition, some of them do get that as a benefit. And that's pretty typical of a lot of school districts nowadays. Most school districts do allow their staff to bring the children to school with them. That is a huge benefit for any school district because my children did not attend the school that I worked in, so I was, running out of my school to run to the PTA at their school to try to help with stuff, and I really wasn't as available to them or their school district as I could have been. When you have your staff member bring their children to your school, a couple of things happen. Number one, it shows how much they believe in your school, and they believe in your staff, and they believe in your programs. And number two, it gets them a lot more invested. So that's been a really great benefit of having staff member children. And then we do have students who pay tuition to come to the schools. It's about a 60-40 split, 60% staff and tuition and 40% residents. One of the things that, again, I did not build, but I'm happy to be in charge of, we do have full-day preschool 3- and 4-year-old. If you have another home somewhere else in New Jersey, you'll know that about 8 years ago, Governor Murphy decided that he wanted to provide full-day, high-quality childcare for 3- and 4-year-olds. So most districts in the state of New Jersey are now providing full-day 3- and 4-year-old pre-K. I know, interesting enough, a lot of people here probably didn't even go to kindergarten full-time. But this is becoming the standard in New Jersey, and so it's really been helpful to parents because it's very difficult now. You can't really have a stay-at-home parent that much anymore because it's very expensive to raise children. So having high-quality preschool has been wonderful. So the preschoolers go to the Avalon School for 3- and 4-year-old pre-K. We have one class in each with a teacher and a paraprofessional. We cap the class size at 15. We try to take no more than 15 kids in a room. And they get to do all kinds of wonderful events. You can see them here doing an Atlantic Care. We had a green smoothie contest one day. They are participating with some of our middle school students, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Avalon has the pre-K 3 and 4 and the 5th through 8th grade students. And then they, of course, get to take lots of trips, just like any kid would. They go to Storybook Land up at Mays Landing. They go to a pumpkin patch. They go to the zoo. So they get to go out and travel into the community quite a bit. One of the things that when I first came to Avalon, everyone said to me was, we know it's kind of unusual that we have our preschoolers with our middle schools. And I said, well, really, it's not that unusual because a preschool is its own school. So even when a preschool is in a building with K to 4 students, it operates on a totally different cycle, a totally different schedule. Everything they do is different. So it is kind of its own little school within our middle school. I can tell you it also has been wonderful because the relationships that got built between these little kids and the older kids are amazing. Our students know that on the school bus, in the hallway, in the gym, during a pep rally, that they always have to be respectful, that there are these little people here who are watching them and learning from them. And they really do take that challenge on. So it's quite nice having them there with the middle schoolers. Academic programs in Avalon and Stone Harbor are second to none. We have some amazing teachers. We have some amazing programs. So we have a little bit more freedom than some regular public school districts that are a little bit bigger because we do operate mostly on local tax dollars. So some of the restraints that are put on school districts by federal programs and things like that, we don't necessarily have to deal with. So our kids tend to be slightly ahead of some of the other school districts, to be quite honest, and we take advantage of that. We have the ability to kind of push them more than we would if we were in another school district where they are kind of teaching towards the middle, we'll say. We have vibrant athletic programs that we have just started over the last couple of years. When I first came here, one of the more problematic things was we try to get these kids at pre-K3 and keep them all the way to 8th grade. We want them to come all the way through our school and all together. But they didn't really have a lot of athletic programs for different reasons, so kids would leave as they got to middle school. We have since been able to add a bunch of different sports. We now have a full cross-country team, boys and girls basketball, baseball, softball, and we added cheer this year. And we are already seeing our programs grow in that we were cross-country champions in the county this year. So, woohoo! I'm gonna do a lot of bragging today, sorry. Another cornerstone of our school district is the fine and performing arts. We have a play that is second to none. If you ever have family in town or you want to come, our plays are open to the public. We do run them in the evening and we advertise it to the public. This was 2 years ago, we did Frozen. Last year we did Annie Jr. and next year we'll be doing The Little Mermaid. Our plays and productions are second to none. You would think you were at a Broadway show. And I say all the time, you don't really have programs in schools. Honestly, you have people. And our drama, theater, and music teachers are phenomenal. And they work so well together and they are full of resources and ideas. And so our show is fabulous. You can't believe there could be so much talent in such a small place. You also see our kids have opportunities to do things like last year they went to Broadway and they got to do a Broadway workshop on Aladdin and then they got to go and see the show. This year our students performed in the 6ABC Thanksgiving Day Parade. So our teachers try to get them involved in the theater life. You know, we're not teaching theater, we're not teaching music, we're teaching musicians and we're teaching artists and we're teaching actors and actresses. So it's been it's a very good program. And you are always welcome to come. We do advertise every spring when our play is being put on that it's open to the public. In addition to our school play, we also support the 7 Mile Island players in the summer as well as the Avalon players. So some of those are our students, some of them are summer residents, but the theater programs here are they're very much thriving. Here are some of our performing arts programs. All of our students in 3rd and 4th grade participate in bands, so they get to try a variety of instruments so that they can narrow down which one they may be a little more attuned to, no pun intended. We have a very thriving art program. They can do everything. We have a kiln, so they make pottery. They do different kinds of painting and drawing and sketching, all during art class, which they have every week. Now, one of the ways that we are able to have some of these programs is that we share these teachers often between Avalon and Stone Harbor, and then a lot of times with another school district. So for example, our art teacher might work 1 day in Stone Harbor, 2 days in Avalon, 1 day in Cape May City, and 1 day in Woodbine. And that's very typical in Cape May County because otherwise we wouldn't be able to have these programs. So everybody, all the superintendents work together to try to share these people, and it really creates a great relationship. This year we added a rock band for the first time. Again, unique to our schools is we don't always plan our programs. Our programs kind of plan themselves. So we say to the kids, what do you want to do this year? What are you guys interested in? This year we had kids say, well, we want to learn to knit. So one of my teachers was like, oh, I knit. I know how to knit. You know, and the other teacher was like, oh, I used to knit too. I haven't knitted in years. Let's knit. And so we order the stuff and we knit. And so rock band kind of came out of that. You know, they had been kind of kicking it around and finally 3 or 4 kids said, I really want to be in rock band. Let's start a rock band. They had phenomenal performances this year, and now next year everybody wants to be in the rock band. So we don't even really, the shark beats they're known as. Again, as I spoke earlier about growing up on an island, is a unique experience in that a lot of times, you know, you're always on the water in one way or another. You're sailing, you're swimming, you're jumping off the dock, you're going to the water park. So all of our students in 8th grade are trained in CPR and first aid, so they do get certified before they leave 8th grade. They also get their boater's licenses in school because we feel like this is their community, this is where they are, and this is where they live, and they need to be able to take care of themselves and take care of other people. It takes a village. This community, both Stone Harbor and Avalon, every organization in both communities always shows up for us. So, for example, kids had a Stone Harbor Beach Day. The beach patrol, the lifeguards took them out in the lifeguard boat. They teach them water safety. They teach them beach safety. They teach them sun safety. Our fire department, of course, always working with our students. They're there for all of our safety purposes, teaching us, how to run drills and things like that, but they're also there to support our students and career goals as well. You know, that this is an excellent career for someone who might be interested in doing something very physical. You see our Stone Harbor Police there playing pickleball in a pickleball tournament with some of our staff and students. And things like Grandparents' Day, where we also try to give back to our community, inviting people in for a Grandparents' Day celebration. So there are pretty much, the last day of school is Blue and White Day. The kids, the Stone Harbor Rec plans a whole day of activities for the kids, station by station. They bring pizza, they bring water. So everyone in the community does something to support our students, and it's wonderful. We really appreciate it. One of the cornerstones of our school district is loving where you live and teaching our kids about the local area, about the local community, about the economy here, about the environment here, which I know you're going to talk a little bit about today. So we do try to get our kids out on trips to a lot of local places like the Cape May Airport, Misty Meadows Sheep Farm. They go to the zoo. We did a summer camp 2 years ago where the kids, every week they had a trip to someplace different, to the lighthouse. And that way they kind of got out and see a lot of times, you know, when you're a kid, you think about going big places. Oh, I'm going to Hershey Park this weekend, or I'm going to Disney World, or whatever. Not, I'm going to the Veterans Park down the street. So we kind of take that upon ourselves to make sure that our kids know what is around them. You'll also see them here participating in a Cape May County tourism contest where they had to design posters and brochures for Cape May County advertising and tourism. We try to do as much service learning as possible. I know we talked a little bit earlier about the Stone Harbor Garden, and we do have families that come on Wednesdays every week, and they present the stuff that we have grown in our garden for sale. We have our students traveled up to the State House in Trenton last year. Here we do a beach cleanup every year. The Public Works comes and they provide the students with the little vests that they absolutely love, the little vests and trash bags, and they go all around town picking up trash. And up above you see where this is a good example of where our 3-year-olds work with some of our older students. They grew dune grass over the course of the winter. So that they came in the fall, they planted the dune grass, they grew it indoors all winter long, and then in the spring we went down to the beach and planted the dune grass. Some other local organizations, this year we had a teacher. The kids did posters for all of the animals that were in the Cape May County animal shelter. So the kids had to draw a picture of the dog, like they were trying to, you know, promote this dog to get adopted. And they wrote a little story about the dog and why that dog should be adopted. They also collected a bunch of supplies for the pet shelter and they sent them over there. You see some of our students, this was the Memorial Day ceremony down in Avalon. We have students again planting dune grass. And up above, this tends to get a lot of publicity, so you've probably seen it before, but our kindergartners do a turtle program with the Wetlands Institute, where they go down all year long, they fundraise, they make little turtle-shaped cookies, and they sell them at lunchtime, and then they go down when the turtles are released. So we get them involved with as many local organizations as we can. I'm gonna brag again. So last year we hired a woman who was a teacher in another district. She happened to be the Cape May County Teacher of the Year, and she was in a district, as I'm sure you're hearing about, a lot of local districts are really struggling financially, where she was going to have 30-some kids in her classroom, and she came to us, you know, during the interview process and said, I can't do what I want to do with my kids in a classroom with 37 kids in it in this day and age. So we did hire her last year, and then oddly enough, we turned out this year with our County Teacher of the Year in 23-24 as well. So Antonio Martin is a Spanish and health and PE teacher, interestingly enough. And so he teaches both subjects for us, and he is the County Teacher of the Year. Allison made it to the top 6 in the state of New Jersey, and Antonio will find out soon enough how far he can go with the state of New Jersey. So very important. Our people really have unique programs and strong backgrounds, and that's what we look for, because again, in a school, you do not have programs, you have people. So, of course, everybody always wants to know, what does this cost? Okay, and I'm very cognizant of that, so we wanted to make sure we kind of put the numbers in black and white for you to see. You can see your tax rate per $100,000 of assessed value and your overall tax levy. What you can see is that it is pretty consistent over the last couple of years. There have been no tax increases. So when you think about the amount of inflation over the last 5 years, everything from our food costs to, we run a cross-country team, we need a bus to take those kids to the cross-country meet, and the cost of gas and the cost of everything. We have had no tax increases. The budget here is significantly small. So this year we did have a tax increase of 2%, but you can see that a 2% tax increase only generated for us $51,000. And the reason we did go that route this year is if you use the Stone Harbor School, everyone knows there's a playground there, there's basketball courts, it's lined for pickleball, and it has a track. The courts are coming apart. And when we went to the engineer and said, okay, well, what are we gonna do? How do we replace these courts? They're not that old, it shouldn't look like this already. They gave us 2 options for replacing the courts, one of which was going to be a lot more expensive. It was going to be $50,000 more expensive, but should be more permanent. And our concern is that we do not want to have to tear up this court every 7 or 8 years. It's not safe right now. Our playground will be open this summer while they're working on it, but we felt it was really important to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That when we build a new court out there, because that court is used from, we got out of school yesterday, there's probably 100 people on that court and playground area today. And it will be used nonstop throughout the summer. So we felt it very important that we did that, and we did it right this year, and that's the reason for this year's tax increase. So, jump in whenever you want there. No, we're good. So this here is a representation of your average school tax per household. Of course, your home values being very high here. The share of your property taxes that actually go to your school district, and your average tax per household. This is on this list here. You can see that we are very comparable to all these communities. The only difference with these other communities is they are all non-operating school districts, which means they have no school buildings, they have no facilities, they have no administrators, they have no teachers. They pay to send their kids to other towns. And I know that comes up a lot in small communities and in beach towns, but you can see that that doesn't always translate to savings, because none of these other school districts that have a similar tax situation even have a building to maintain. So the fiscal responsibility here is significant, and I say that because I didn't build it, but to those of you who had the foresight to do, including Suzanne, it's been very, very helpful. This is all of Cape May County's tax rate. Again, you can see that Avalon and Stone Harbor have some of the lowest school taxes, have the lowest percentage of their taxes going to the school district. As far as you can see, the highest one in Cape May County is Woodbine, and 71% of your local tax goes directly to your school district. So,
this is where I wanted to step in, because these are the questions that are asked constantly of why do we have a school district in Stone Harbor? Why don't we merge with Middle Township and just send the children there? Well, obviously, all the previous slides show you what an outstanding school we have and what outstanding children we have. I don't know, again, you have to correlate the number of children we have, and they are involved in everything. It's not like, somebody's in sports or somebody's in theater and somebody's academic. These kids are in everything, and they can't wait for one season to end and the next to begin, and they're just so enthusiastic. And you get to the dollars and cents of it, look at these numbers. Look at the percentage of your tax bill, 7% that goes to the schools. Look at Middle Township, 55.7%. Imagine over 50% of your tax bill, because the way New Jersey funds their school is through property taxes. And a merger would mean that your entire the ratables of Stone Harbor would be attached to Middle Township, so that their school taxes would go down considerably, and ours would quadruple. I can't even imagine what the number would be of what our school taxes would be. Now, we've been asked, because we do a sending-receiving relationship with the high school, that we pay for the amount that it costs them to educate our children. Couldn't we do the same thing with the elementary school? And the answer is no. First of all, nobody's interested. Nobody on that side is interested in it, obviously, because they want our ratables to be able to pay for things. But it did happen with Sea Isle and Ocean City, and that's the example that's questioned to me many times. And that was an issue where it was forced because of things that were happening. It was forced that the Sea Isle children go to Ocean City, but it was also a very legal battle. It was a huge battle that had to go to the legislature. I mean, there were so many things that had to be involved in that, that it wasn't just a simple signing a contract and having a sending-receiving relationship. I mean, obviously, that's not what the receiving district, in this case, Middle Township, would be. That they're not interested in just having us pay tuition for our elementary school children. They want the ratables. And I was telling somebody earlier. Somebody gave me a scrapbook of the 1950s, 57, 58 maybe, of the parent-teacher organization. And it was fun to go through and see. But one of the articles, several of the articles in there, was a regionalization study that was done. And it's, the way this borough goes, the same issues, they keep circulating around and around. Well, there was a regionalization vote that was done back then. And Stone Harbor, it was Middle, Dennis, Avalon, and Stone Harbor were going to form a regional district. And Stone Harbor voted against it. And I think it lost by 2 votes. And I mean, really, we should have a statue coming into town it was Mike Mixner was the one who was president of the school board at the time. He started Sturdy Bank and was a longtime resident of Stone Harbor, but it was he that fought against it hard. And Jim Otten was a part of that. We should be so thankful that we're not a regionalized school district. I mean, when you look at this and you look at your tax bill, I sit on several statewide committees, and generally they'll put me on a panel of school tax reform. And people, can't believe that so little of our tax bill goes to our schools. We've fought this for years of trying to change the funding formula, but the legislature is just doesn't have the stomach for it, and it's not going to happen. So we are extremely fortunate that these numbers are what they are, and we can provide the education for our children that we do. So hand it back.
So again, I want to thank you all for paying your taxes and supporting the children here. I think I can tell in the conversations I've had today, education is important to you as individuals and has been to your children and your grandchildren. And what you're doing here for the kids on these islands is phenomenal. And know that they are being raised to support these islands. They are learning about, why are the turtles crossing the road? How do we prevent the turtles from crossing the road? Why is it flooding? Why is there water in this spot and not that spot? They are being raised here to be in charge of these towns someday, hopefully, because these are not regular places. These are places that people, they've been coming here for years as, summer residents, or their grandparents lived here, or their family lived here, and they love being here. So they don't want to leave. They want to have a good school system here in the community, and they want to take advantage of it. There is nothing like going to school in a beach community. This is us the day after graduation, running into the ocean, which most people don't get to do. So we are grateful for you. Know that our resources are your resources, our facilities. If you have programs or events or things that you need to run, our students are always looking for service hours. We have a lot of kids who, have to get hours for National Honor Society or for their confirmation or whatever it is for their high school application. So please know that we're always available. If you want students, if you need students, if you have an event that you think they could help out at, just reach out to Renee or I, and we'll be happy to set you up. But I appreciate everything that you've done for the kids here. I am grateful to be flying this ship because it's an amazing little ship. So thank you.
And I'm partial, but I think our schools are the heart of both Avalon and Stone Harbor.
I just have one really quick question, which I'm sure is just roll right off your backs. How does the Stone Harbor compare with other community school systems academically in the state evaluated testing?
So I can tell you, we just had, was recently released, the school report card. Everything you want to know about a school, please anytime call. We will always answer for you, but everything that has to do with the school, from every dollar that's spent to every score that is earned, is always published on the Department of Ed website. Recently, we received our school performance report that they do annually. I can tell you one of the things that brings us down in our school performance report is sometimes our attendance. We have a lot of students whose families run businesses, and they are running from May till September, and they don't ever take a break. So we have a lot of kids that will travel during the school year. So sometimes that makes our overall performance look like it's lower. But this year we were in Avalon, the middle schoolers are tested, and they were second in all of Cape May County after Ocean City. And again, really what brought us second after Ocean City was the fact that our chronic absenteeism is high. However, when a kid has a chance to take a 2-week trip to Thailand in the middle of the school year, we see the educational value in that as well. So that's important too.
Yeah, plus you also have to consider percentages that, you know, if there are 2 children that are absent out of 18 that are in a class, it's a bigger percentage than if you were 50 in a class or whatever. So it does sometimes play to our detriment.
Well, thank you all so very much. That was wonderful to learn. Thank you. Do the drawing?
2 points. I don't know if anybody is aware of it, but this is what they do in the last day of school, or almost the last day of school. I think, Kathleen, you said they did this on Thursday. These are the graduates, the 8th graders, and they kind of run into the ocean as a way of celebrating their graduation. I actually saw it last year. It's pretty cool. But also, I was told by Kathleen that she got roped into it one year and now is an annual participant. I don't know if you wear the blue cape or if you just go in.
That water's cold.
So what you're not seeing there is somebody wearing a complete wetsuit. That would have been her. I only have one other question. Not a question, it's more of a comment and observation. Did anybody notice the name of the cheer squad? Did anybody notice the team name? Sharks? Yeah. For a beach time? I don't know. Thank you. Suzanne, Kathleen, Renee, thank you for your time. I hope you all find this informative. If you do have questions, certainly you can reach out to through their website, which is very good. But also, feel free, send questions to the contact box, the SHPOA contact box, and we'll make sure we forward them on to them. And I'm certain you'll get an answer in due course. So again, ladies, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Okay, Heidi's going to pull the ticket. The next door prize is a $50 gift certificate to Ace Hardware. You may have noticed that Ace is one of the primary sponsors also for the Harbor Hustle. They've been very, very generous with their support of our organization over the years, and this is just another example. So again, thank you to Ace Hardware, and please, I think they know me on a first name basis up there, so I'm always up there buying something. So please do patronize Ace Hardware here in town. So Heidi?
So the number is 541-1245.
Red ticket.
Oh, yeah, we've got both of them here. Oh, brother.
1 second.
Heather Smith.
Take it up.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, Heather. So, next section, and actually the last section, our team does a lot of work with the borough on the issues of sustainability. If you've been here for the last several years, you're well aware of all the various aspects of sustainability. This year we wanted to touch on some of the work that's being done by the borough and by the various committees around the topic of flood mitigation. So I'd like to introduce Justine Herzog. She's over here in the corner, but you never put baby in the corner. And she is a member of our sustainability committee, but also is a member of the flood mitigation committee working with the borough. Justine's going to take you through the discussion on flood mitigation and a little bit of education around the topic of stormwater utility. So Justine?
Thank you very much, Rich, for that introduction. Welcome, Stone Harbor, and thank you for being here this morning. I hope that you find this presentation informative and helpful to you in moving forward on a very complex set of topics that our community is facing. So let me just give you an idea of what we're trying to do this morning. Often in some of our meetings, we've gone very deep into detail about plans and charts and diagrams. And this time we decided to depart a little bit from that and give you a very high-level overview of these two topics. Flood mitigation, and of course that's going to be expensive, and then there's discussion of a stormwater utility. I'm going to cover a lot of information in a short period of time. But I hope it equips you with the background, the curiosity, and the interest in asking helpful questions to our public officials as they move forward in this endeavor in our community. So here's a quick outline. Why is flood mitigation such a big deal? A brief comment on the history, some of which you already know. Current flood mitigation activities in Stone Harbor. A very common question is, why isn't Stone Harbor doing what our neighbors to the north, our neighbors to the south are doing? And we will address that briefly. Quick talk about capital budget, more in terms of money than detail. And then how are costs allocated to property owners under the current financial structure in Stone Harbor? So that's how we're going to cover flood mitigation. So first of all, we have a situation where our ocean levels are rising. We've got more and bigger storms. Our island is sinking because of increased development. We are withdrawing from the freshwater aquifer so that the island is sinking. This is not unique to Stone Harbor. In fact, just a couple of months ago, there was an article in the New York Times titled "The East Coast is Sinking" for this very reason. But it is a big contributor to our problem of flooding and storm water issues. We've got more storm-related flooding, but we also have more tidal flooding, and I'm sure you've all seen it, where on a sunny, dry day, we have a high tide and the streets flooded. Well, that's happening more and more and more, and I think we're all quite aware and sensitive about that. And why is it such a big deal? This flooding is a public safety issue, okay? The roads are impassable. Emergency response can't get through. Our businesses and homeowners can't get cleanup and restoration services onto the island because of the flooding. And last but not least, there are state and federal mandates that say that the municipality has to address these health and safety issues. So, a brief comment on the history and the current activities. A couple of years ago, there was a lot of talk about putting in a very large pump station. That was canceled in favor of a better engineered approach, and fortunately our borough brought on an engineer in the way of Manny Parada to take over public works and direct the activities here. And I will tell you, it is a better engineering approach, and we need to be grateful for that having been canceled. The private and borough-owned bulkheads are being raised. Many of you that are in the area from 80th to 99th Street know that you received a letter recently that there'll be actual measurements taken, but we can't be having water coming over bulkheads when we're trying to pump out the streets and clean out the streets. One of the key things is that under Manny's guidance, there is a set of test valves installed to prevent bay water from backflowing into the streets. So you've all seen this, where you've got water at intersections that is gurgling up through the stormwater drains from the bay, and that is happening more and more frequently as we get more intense
more severe high tides. If you recall, just a couple years ago, over Mother's Day weekend, we had high tides for like 5 days straight. There was never a low tide. The low tides were our normal high tides, and the high tides were higher than normal, and all the poor egrets were lined up on Stone Harbor Boulevard, standing there on the side of the road going, what happened to my home? So we are testing valves, and I'll get into that a little bit more, for a very key reason. And I'll talk about that when we get to our difference between what Stone Harbor's doing and what some other municipalities are doing. Stone Harbor has been aggressive at successfully obtaining BRIC grants to finance the engineering. Those are infrastructure grants to improve stormwater infrastructure systems. There's action to update our flood maps, and you might think, well, what the heck good use is a flood map? Well, with flood maps, we can have the engineering organizations model what happens in Stone Harbor as the tide is driven up, either by a high tide or a storm event. So as all the bulkheads are raised, and many of the ones that were very low have already been raised, as the leakage in between some bulkheads is stopped, we can better model what's happening in the streets. And then last but not least, we have to go out, and we are going out, to take photos and try to establish benchmarks about, okay, if we predict 6 inches of water at a certain intersection in Stone Harbor, is that actually happening at that level of tide? Like, are we getting reliable data? Because with this reliable data, you can better design facilities that are the proper size and not so big that we overspend, and then we have overspend building them, and then we overspend having to maintain them. So, a lot of people ask, why is Stone Harbor not doing what neighboring towns are doing? Are we behind the curve? And I will tell you this, Stone Harbor is taking a measured and careful approach to spending the money on this. This is not about slinging steel to see how quickly you can get valves and pumps into the streets. And therefore, under the direction of the Director of Public Works, Manny Parada, we have worked on minimizing the tidal backflow with the test program for the valves and by getting the bulkheads raised. Now, why is that so important? Well, you can put a pump in the street, but what good does that do you if you've got water coming up backwards from the drainage lines and you've got water coming over the bulkheads? You need a bigger pump, and bigger pumps are more expensive, their parts are more expensive, they're more expensive to operate. So in Stone Harbor's methodology, the first thing to do is to control what we can control. And that is the direction that has been taken since the cancellation of the 93rd Street pump station. So I hope that gives you a bit of the background and an understanding. Not all municipalities are doing it this way. I will tell you from my experience in project engineering, I got out of school with this, okay, let's do it. You know what, I want to go out there, I want to see it built, I want to touch it while it runs and hums. I know, I'm weird that way. But I learned through the years that the slower approach, the measured approach, the making sure you're making a good choice of equipment and facilities makes a big difference. And you might say, well, what the heck is the big deal? These are valves in the street. Well, remember, stormwater is dirty. There are animals in there. There are bodies of animals. There are boots and clothing and pool needles and hunks of wood and stuff like that that can clog the system. And then on top of that, it's salt water, which we all know is a very corrosive, tough service. So selecting the right valve actually makes a huge difference in the cost, because certain valves are so big that they actually require piling and a concrete pad under the valves. So under the current strategy that has been laid out, Stone Harbor is trying to test valves that will not require piling or concrete pads beneath them. And that will save a lot of money, not only in the initial installation, but in the long-term maintenance of the systems. So I hope that gives you some insight as to why we are not the same as the people down the coast or up the coast, but I think you will see that time will tell, because the other question that is at issue is putting in a valve that hasn't actually been tested and spending the money on the actuators and the automatic controls. These are very specific to the type of valve. If you put in the wrong valve and decide 5 years later or 3 years later that you want a different valve, you have to change the whole works. This is not like just changing a part in your vacuum cleaner or something. It's much more complex and much more pricey. So the last detailed plan that was presented at this meeting was about a year ago, where Mark de Blasio, the borough engineer, presented a plan that showed spending $40 to $50 million over the next 10 years. So the question is how are you now paying for managing the stormwater? Because what we have now is not costing zero. It's just that we haven't embarked yet on the very, very expensive infrastructure improvements. So how does it get charged to property owners? And what are the possibilities for the future? Well, the way it gets charged to property owners is that entire budget for maintaining the stormwater system and for any capital improvements that are expected is blended in to the borough budget and put in the tax rate. So you are paying for stormwater. Have no doubt about it. You are paying it, you're paying it through taxes, and it is commingled with all of the other operating expense and capital costs. So, as I said, you now pay for rain and flood water management with every single tax payment. So if you hear the word rain tax, and there's been a lot of that in the press, know that you're already paying it. Okay, this is not a question of if we're going to have to pay this. Unfortunately, we are. And it is worth examining how that is going to be paid.
Not trying to be argumentative, but are you saying that we're paying at that level of $40 to $50 million on a
No. We haven't embarked on those large expenditures because of the careful engineering methodology that's being followed by making sure that the bulkheads are raised, and also making sure that the valves that would be used in these expensive facilities are tested and reliable and economic choices. So we see this on the forefront. A couple years ago, the prediction is that we'd already be mired in spending several million a year, but that has been deferred because we've had the borough brought on a very talented engineer who's said, hey, let's slow this down and do this right. And it comes down to doing it right or doing it twice or more. So right now, in your current financial structure, your costs are levied against you via your property taxes. There are big capital expenses ahead and big tax increases coming. Now, of course, we know that our tax increases are limited every year, but the costs are going to be borne by us, because if the cost can't be covered by a 2 or 2.5% tax increase in a given year, the borough will have to go borrow money to finance those projects, and we'll just keep paying more and more and more as the years go on. So the thing that's important to know is that the taxes for flood and stormwater are commingled with all of the other borough tax revenue, capital, and expense and operating costs. They can be sorted out, but that is not that easy to do. So it's very difficult to maintain accountability and audit costs for large, multi-million-dollar projects. So that's where we are now, and that's how we would pay, that's how we do pay for capital improvements in Stone Harbor on any of our systems. However, this one is about to be a biggie. So one of the options that has been bandied about, and there's been a lot of publicity, a lot of it negative, is about the creation of a stormwater utility. So what we'd like to do is point out to you that, first of all, SHPOA is not taking a stand for or against a stormwater utility. However, we do think it's worth exploring, and it's important to understand that when you hear stormwater utility, you're not hearing about a new set of fees that you would not otherwise have to pay, but you're looking at a certain financial and management structure that treats the situation differently than it is under the current budgeting and financing project in the municipality. So we're going to talk about what is a stormwater utility, and some of that is generally what is a utility, and then how does it differ from the current situation. So first of all, a utility, first and foremost, is a dedicated source of funding for a specific purpose. And in the state of New Jersey, the law says that a utility is specifically for maintaining the infrastructure to provide a public service. You're used to utilities. You pay water, electric, gas, all based on your usage, and that is what a utility does. The amount of the resource you're going to use is going to be assessed to you as an individual property owner. So if your property uses more water, you have a higher water bill. If you use more electricity, likewise. So the fees are usage-based, and you already live with them on a daily basis in other areas. Now, this is normally considered a more reasonable funding method in the financial communities because you are assessing the cost to the user. Now, imagine if you didn't have a water utility, and instead we said, okay, we'll just melt the whole cost for water into the tax rate, and you'll all be assessed at the same rate. Of course, multiplied by your property value, but that doesn't make sense because we know there's a big variation in usage of that utility, and that is the case with every utility. So the last thing to know is that a utility is not a sale of our facility. Whoops, I forgot to change the slide, I apologize. There we go. A utility is not a sale of the facilities. It is a privatization. It is not privatization, and in fact, the law in New Jersey requires that the stormwater utility remain a public entity. So this is not going down the road of privatization. So the question is when it comes to a stormwater utility, the thing that contributes to stormwater runoff is the impervious surface that is a result of human development, of us paving the roads. So we talk about impervious surface, and it's important to know this because if there is a stormwater utility, and again, that's an if, we property owners would be assessed a fee based on the contribution of our property, and that would be based on its impervious surface. An impervious surface is something that water cannot pass through in order to soak into the soil. That includes asphalt and concrete and highly compacted dirt and stone, and it also includes rooftops. The rain that falls on your house cannot soak into the ground. So, and any of you that have done any construction in Stone Harbor in the, I don't know, the last few decades know that you actually have a limit in your permit of the amount of impervious surface on your lot. But nonetheless, when we put a building on a lot that was unimproved, it is contributing to stormwater, and that's what how the utility would address fees. So the impervious surface runoff goes into the streets and sewer system where it has to be disposed of and handled, and at low rates of runoff, that's not a problem. But with the increasing storms and the increasing ocean level, the management of that stormwater has become more and more difficult and more onerous. And on top of that, this stormwater as it flows through the streets is collecting pollutants and trash and oil and all kinds of gunk, so it becomes polluted water. So the thing to know is that runoff increases with increased development and more impervious surface. So if there was a stormwater utility, how would it operate? And again, this is a very general overview. I also want to take the opportunity to mention that the law in New Jersey is not titled like the Stormwater Utility Act. The law about this that New Jersey created in approximately 2019 is titled the Clean Stormwater and Flood Reduction Act. And if you have nothing else to read one day and decide to read the first couple of pages of it, you will see it makes an absolute ton of sense, because in the law it acknowledges that New Jersey is in a very vulnerable position, that stormwater management systems in general are not paid attention to until they are a serious problem, and then it takes years to make that infrastructure improvement. So the state of New Jersey, just in the last few years, passed this stormwater, what's referred to as a Stormwater Utility Act, but is really clean stormwater and flood reduction, to allow municipalities to create, let me back up, to allow municipalities that are facing big infrastructure expenses to create a stormwater utility to better manage the process of improving the infrastructure. So lastly, I just want to run through the fact that how would you be billed? And this is very general. The law does require that there be a logic to the billing based on what your runoff is. So for example, if you have 1,500 square feet of impervious surface and your neighbor has 3,000, you would pay half of what your neighbor pays. And yes, you would be able to understand how you assess that. We're not going to go into details about that, but that information would be in the billing. And then the thing to know, if you would have a property with zero impervious surface, it's not contributing any extra runoff, so that it would be zero, but I don't think we have any of those in Stone Harbor. Okay. The other thing is homeowners will be able to reduce their fees by reducing the impervious surface or improving the ability of the rain falling on their property to get into the ground. And anybody that has a newer property knows that the last few years we've been required to put in a stormwater recharge vessel underneath the ground in the new property to aid in this, that collects the water and holds it so it can seep into the ground. So that's one of the things that could happen. So that tells you how a stormwater utility would operate and how it would assess costs. So let's talk about the advantages of a stormwater utility. A stormwater utility is a dedicated source of funding for large, prolonged stormwater and flood reduction expenses related to infrastructure. It is a more equitable way of distributing costs because fees are based on your contribution. A stormwater utility, in fact, any utility, allows for more fiscal responsibility and accountability. And the reason is that a utility is much more auditable than putting the dollars into the general budget. If you have a utility, in the state of New Jersey, you have to have a separate audit. And if you go on the Stone Harbor website and you look at the most recent audit, which was for the year 2022, I don't think the 2023 is posted yet, go to approximately page 22, 23, and there is a separate audit of the water utility because in Stone Harbor owns its own water utility. So there you can actually see that there is more accountability and more detail. But hold your horses, because the law for stormwater utility actually requires an incredible amount of accountability, including the fact that if you create a stormwater utility in New Jersey, that stormwater utility is required to issue an annual report accounting for all expenses, all revenue, and all capital projects every single year. And the law says that that report has to be published on the municipality's website for all of the users to view. So there is accountability built into this, but I will tell you, what you read in the paper about other states, you need to be cautious because every state regulates utilities differently. Some are more stringent, some are less. And in fact, there are actually cities in the United States that have just decided to start charging a stormwater fee without even creating a utility because they can get away with it in their state. So know that New Jersey is a little bit late in putting in the legislation to allow this, but it appears that they've learned from the mistakes of other states, because we've all read about cities that are using their stormwater utility as a slush fund. So the New Jersey law is new, it's young. You could not create a utility in New Jersey, stormwater utility in New Jersey before, but it also has very stringent requirements compared to some of our neighboring states. We've talked about the fiscal accountability. There's separate accounting, which allows for better management. The interest rates, this is important. In any municipality, in order to get big capital projects done expeditiously, the municipality borrows money because it's limited as to how much it can hit you with in a tax increase in a single year. Well, utilities, when they go out into the financial market to borrow money, a utility is viewed much more favorably by the entities that provide these loans. And they get a much better interest rate. And as interest rates have risen, the interest rates that we would incur to finance large stormwater infrastructure projects would be much higher if they had to be acquired by the borough than if the loan was acquired by the stormwater utility. And it all comes down to the fact that the stormwater utility is a dedicated fee-based system. And lastly, a stormwater utility creates incentive for users to reduce their impact, just like your water bill creates incentive for you to tell your family, hey, let's cut back on the long showers, okay? Oh, I didn't mean to shut that off. How did I do that? Oh, okay. All right, so what SHPOA would like you to leave here today is not with the expectation that we should have a stormwater utility or we should not, but that your mind is open to the fact that there are reasons that this might make sense. And it especially might make sense for a coastal community that is about to have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. So with that knowledge, our Borough Council and business manager have authorized a feasibility study for the stormwater utility. And you might say, well, why the heck is that required? Well, the law requires it in New Jersey so that municipalities just don't decide, hey, let's create another slush fund, collect a stormwater fee and not spend it on stormwater, but spend it in other areas where we're short of money. So New Jersey requires this feasibility study. It has to be independent. Is it as cheap as we like? No. But I will tell you that when you look at the magnitude of the projects that are about to be spent, that the cost of the feasibility study pales in comparison to failing at large projects like the 93rd Street pump station. And so we've lived it.
What is the cost?
The cost, I believe, Manny, is it 735? 375.
You know what the cost is? You think, in the approved budget, the borough approved $375,000 in the budget. Don't know what the cost is yet because they haven't actually gone on, based on some estimates and some information that's been gathered for the budgeting process. That's the number that's in the budget right now for 2024 for the feasibility studies. And it's a financial and it's, I think, an engineering and technical. So it's just not one, several studies that are necessary in order to be able to move forward under the law.
Rich, it would be really helpful if they address this instead of SHPOA, because SHPOA, if you guys aren't advocating for this, it certainly came across that way. And if indeed these people, who we are $34 million in debt under, it would be very helpful if they would tell us how they see this working.
Again, fair point. The whole purpose here was to begin the conversation, okay? The answer is, you have questions, you all have questions. Nobody really has answers. This is based on what other communities, other places have done. Many of you remember Wally Bishop, who was a former trustee of ours. Wally worked in this industry for years and was responsible for setting up many of these in places like California. So the whole purpose of this isn't to answer the questions today, it's to get you to engage in the conversation, to get you to start reading the stuff that we put out about Borough Council summaries, to get you to participate in the debate in Borough Council as these issues come forward, to get you to understand what is the problem we're facing and what are the alternatives, and to make your voice heard. Not to come up with a solution today, because there isn't a solution today. That's why the borough is undertaking their idea of undertaking the study to see if this is something that could make sense for Stone Harbor. So it's not an advocacy position, and I don't think the borough has an advocacy position yet. The borough is looking at it and saying there's an opportunity, it's something that the state of New Jersey is encouraging communities to look at. We have a major flooding problem. This may be an answer, okay?
Right, but the borough is facing a lot of issues right now.
Of course.
Substantial debt, and now all of these lawsuits additional. So one of the questions here is, these people are the people who are spending our money.
Yep.
Why aren't they addressing us? And if that wasn't
Well, my answer to you is very simple. Take part in council meetings. There's public comment, ask questions.
Yep.
Take part in the council meetings, you know.
It's presented as a positive, though. It's clearly, the presentation clearly is in favor of this.
Yeah.
I'm on an authority in Pennsylvania, so the real problem with these, on the flood authority, is that you have no say once it's established. You don't vote these people in, you change it and be, 4 or 5 members. I don't know what the law is in New Jersey, but in Pennsylvania.
Exactly. See, this is the point. This is the point we try to bring across to you, okay? You're talking about Pennsylvania. This lady spent hours and hours and hours reading the laws and reading and studying the stuff to try to get an understanding of these, to try to see where New Jersey's building in accountability. These are questions that should be raised and issues that should be raised as part of the process. And that's why we're simply bringing information to you to encourage you to participate in the debate and in the process. Because what tends to happen down here, everybody runs away and doesn't participate, and then something happens, and they all say, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that's wrong. We want you all to be engaged. We want you to be informed, and we want you to be engaged. The problem's here. Okay, the problem is here, and as Justine pointed out, you're paying for it now.
It would be better if we had an interaction rather than sit here and just be...
I wish, well, you know what? That would be great, except for the fact that then we'd be here probably till mid-afternoon. And most people have said, look, let's stop. And so that's why we put it out here. What I'd encourage you to do is, if you have questions, send them to us in the contact box. And we will forward them to Tim Carney, where Tim was here a minute ago. Forward them to Tim, who's our liaison. We'll forward them to Manning. We'll forward them to members of council. And they respond. And they'll come back with responses to you. They will tell you what they're thinking. And they will ask you to engage in the process. They will welcome your feedback in the process. That's the key to it. Because we can't ignore it. We can't put our head in the sand. and say that it's not going to happen. So I'm going to cut us off here. Sorry, we didn't anticipate questions just because of the timing. Again, if you have questions, send them to us. contact@stoneharborpoa.org, and we will get them answered for you. All right. Okay?
Rich has done a real good job of pretty much wrapping it up. And, you know, one of the things we wanted to convey is when you think about a stormwater utility, think about whether you're happy with these large expenditures happening under the current fiscal structure in Stone Harbor. And yes, maybe painting this picture has let you know that there could be advantages to another system. You have to decide what you're comfortable with, and please participate in the process via the council meetings. Watch them, they're recorded. They're very easy to speed up too. Put them on while you're making dinner. Put them on while you're, I don't know, styling your hair. But listen to them and learn the complexities of the things the borough is facing. And this is just one of many issues, but it's one step forward that SHPOA is trying to take to give you the information and the education so you can make a good decision and ask good questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Last thing, and then I'm going to let you go home. Justine, you want to pull a ticket? So this door prize, the final door prize, is $100 gift certificate from Jay's on 3rd. Jay's has been a very generous sponsor of things over the years. You saw Jay's is another one of the key sponsors for the race. So again, thank you, Jay's on 3rd. And folks, if you can get a reservation, and unfortunately, I don't have any insight because I've tried many times, but I've been there a couple times already this year. It's, as always, excellent. So Jay's on 3rd, thank you.
Okay, the one thing I have to do that I neglected to do at the end of my presentation is give a thank you. So you need to just bear with me for a minute while I thank the Director of Public Works and Business Manager, Manny Parada. That I thank all of the council members, especially those on the flood committee and the water utility committee, for their questions, their input, their helpfulness, and for all of the help from my fellow SHPOA trustees, because all of those people made this presentation possible. It was not just me. So with that said, let's say when the number is 067011. There you go. Okay, wow. $100 gift certificate to Jane. Yes, there she is. Her name, there's no name on this one.
All right, folks, thank you. Appreciate your time. Have a great summer. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. Send us your questions, and we'll see you on the beach.